So I've been here a while. Could you all see my screen perfectly fine, just to verify? Okay, great. Yeah, so I feel like a lot of college students don't really have a good understanding of basic car maintenance and knowledge, and a lot of people tend to get scared, and a lot of people aren't really used to working on their own car or being able to like evaluate if something's wrong with it. And then we're all college students, so we're all broke. So I know it's a very important skill to have, not just for now, but for like the rest of your life. So I think this is a very important. Um, Let me see if my slide's gonna work. Maybe not. Well, okay. Topic. So one of the first things that I wanted to start with is, if you're able and willing, if you could go ahead and turn on your cameras. But I also was going to ask, what's one thing that you all wanted to get out of this cliff? And then hopefully I can try and hit on that topic a little bit more with more emphasis. So are there any questions that people have in general about basic car maintenance or knowledge that they would want to ask? And you could throw it in the chat as well, if y'all are more comfortable with that. So I'll give that a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to open up the chat here.
Can I start with one? Can I ask a question? Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I would like, just to get things started, I'm always changing my oil, just on a regular basis, but I'm always asked about like this synthetic oil, which apparently lasts longer or whatever, but I'm always cautious because it costs more money. So
Yeah.
I'm just wondering about like my oil changes, like what's the best, should I change it, and that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll definitely be talking about that, oil changes and their intervals, and I'll touch based on synthetic motor oils as well. Anyone else have any other questions that they would like answered throughout this presentation? All right. If none, then we will go ahead and get started. Oh, wait, never mind. Okay. Yeah. So none. So we're good to go. Okay. All right. So yeah, so like I was kind of saying at the beginning, car maintenance can be expensive nowadays. Basic knowledge and skills can really help reduce costs when it comes to like finding out what's wrong with your car and being able to fix things with your car. Right? It's like sometimes you can go in because like your engine overheated and you just need coolant, and you take it to a shop and they lay the hammer down and charge you like $500, $600 just because you didn't know that you were low on coolant, which is like 12 bucks for a gallon at Walmart that you could have just filled up by yourself at home. So that's very important. So car shops can be your best friend when it comes to getting stuff done right, but they're not your wallet's best friend. And one of the things that I did want to mention is make sure that you're safe when doing a project on your vehicle. If there's any doubt, you should probably not do it. This is just for safety and for your own safety. And yeah, make sure to wear gloves when performing any complicated tasks on your vehicle, especially where your hands are going to get really dirty. So if you're going to be touching any fluids or chemicals from your vehicle, it'd probably be a good idea to wear gloves, just because many fluids and chemicals are poisonous and they need to be disposed of properly. And over to the bottom right there of the screen, you'll see that I have a warning label, and this is one of the many labels that come on a lot of the fluids. So a lot of, especially parts and everything like that, fluids, they have chemicals known to the state of California to cause cancer or birth defects or other reproductive harm. And you'll see this on like pretty much everything, any chemical or anything like that. So that's kind of one of the biggest reasons why I say to wear gloves. You don't have to, but just a good rule of thumb. So when it comes to maintenance, every vehicle is different, and there can be many specific cases based on car, make, model, and year. So like that, costs also vary by car, make, model, and year. So these are just general common trends that I've noticed, is that common vehicles are going to be cheaper to repair and to get parts for, especially here in the United States, compared to like not so common vehicle brands. So like a Toyota would be really easy to get brake pads for, like in a sharp contrast to like a Ferrari or like a Bentley or something like that. So accessibility to parts is something that's very important. American models are usually easier to work on. So like American car models are like Dodge, Ram, Jeep, Chrysler, Toyota, and stuff like that. More like Japanese brands like Nissan, Opel, or stuff like that. They're going to be harder to work on. And then older vehicles are always easier to work on as well. So if you have like a 2000 Toyota Camry, that's going to be easier to work on it than a 2021 Toyota Camry. And if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me at any point in time. So, yeah. All right. So one of the biggest things that I wanted to cover was tires and tire pressures. So like your tires are pretty much the lifeline of your vehicle. If a tire blows out on the freeway and you overcorrect or something, like you can obviously cause a rollover and get yourself injured very badly. So general rule of thumb, tires should be around 32 to 35 pounds per square inch, which is what that PSI stands for. And it depends on your car, right? But down on the bottom of the slide, you can see a tire pressure gauge, and you can usually use those. You just stick it onto the tire stud to check the pressure. And then just some like general things to look out for. So during the winter at lower temperatures, your tire pressure does tend to go down. So like a couple of weekends ago when we had that really bad storm, when it got to like negative something, like it was really cold for a couple of days, my tires were all low on air. But the danger with that is if you fill up your tires to spec when it's cold outside and it gets hot, the pressure is going to go up. So as it gets hotter outside, the pressure in your tires goes up. So that's just something to look out for. And you don't want to like overinflate your tires because it could cause uneven tread wear. And tread wear is pretty much like the patterns on your tire, which help for management of water when you're driving in the rain and management of snow to get them out of the drive path so that it's safer for you. Yeah, so you can check with the tire pressure gauge or with onboard systems. A lot of new cars have that, and they'll like a light will pop up on your dash telling you about low air pressure. So tire variety, I also wanted to touch a little bit on that. There's different types of tires available for you to use and to purchase. So you can get like winter tires, and those usually have softer rubber. The rubber is a little bit softer, which will help you with traction in the snow. There's all season tires, which is what pretty much everyone has on their cars. And you can use those any season throughout the year, and those are immediately hard. And then there's summer tires, which is a harder rubber, which will wear less and on hotter temperatures and through longer distances of travel. All right, no questions on tires in general? Cool. So here's the tire tread that I was talking about. So tire tread should be worn evenly with no weird patterns. So if you look on that image that I have up on the slide, that's an uneven tread wear. As you can see, like on the right-hand side of the tire, you could see the tread, the design on the tire. But on the left-hand side, you can't see anything. The tire is pretty smooth. And that's really dangerous, especially when it comes to driving, because you lose traction. And when it comes to rain, you can hydroplane easier when your tires are smooth, because the tread isn't there to provide adequate water management and water flow away from your tire. So if tires are not wearing evenly, your car might need an alignment, which is one of the most common fixes. And those are usually like $80 to $100. You can't do those at home because you do need like a special system to do those. Some alignments, especially if your car just is a front wheel drive car or a rear wheel drive car, can be done with uneven tread wear, but it depends on your mechanic. And usually they would just tell you to get new tires, which at that point I would. So the purchase of new tires may be necessary. Tire rotations are also a good way to ensure even tire wear. And tire rotation is not like spinning your tires. That's actually when they remove the tires from your car and switch the spots that they are on your car. That's what a tire rotation is. So for replacing your tires should be replaced when your tread is low. Treads are important for road grip, handling, and safety. So a good reference to check your tire tread, and actually in this tire you could see it, let me annotate here real quick. So if you all could see this little red dot, but here on the tire, that's a tread wear indicator, and that's usually in like the channels of the tire tread. And usually if your tread is down to that indicator, you need to replace your tires. But a lot of tires don't have that as well. It's kind of a hit or miss. So if you grab a penny and you line up the top of the penny with your tread, and you can see the top of Abraham Lincoln's head, that also means that your tire tread is low. So that's also a nice good check if you have some spare change in your pocket. And actually in the state of Colorado, if your tread is lower than the top of Abraham's head, that's actually illegal. And you can get a ticket for that. I've had friends that have gotten tickets for that before. So something to check for with your treads. And then if you have like an all-wheel drive car or a four-wheel drive car, they usually need all tires replaced at the same time. When you replace those tires, you can't just replace one or two at a time. And then two-wheel drive cars, tires can be replaced in pairs. So you can do like the two front ones or the two back ones. So like if you get a flat, you can't just get a new tire just for that one flat tire. You have to get the pair or do all four if you have an all-wheel drive car, which kind of sucks. But that's what it is, what's recommended most of the time. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. So emergency tires, everyone has those, but not everyone knows about them. They're usually called donuts, and the donut could be seen on the right-hand image, and it's usually a smaller tire that's operated at a higher pressure, and they're usually in the trunk of your car, and then usually in like bigger cars like SUVs or trucks, they're underneath the car, and this is like a picture from underneath here on the left-hand side. So when you're using a donut, it's a 50 for 50 rule. So it's recommended that you use it for 50 miles max and that you drive no higher than 50 miles an hour or else the tire could explode on you. So that's also something that's very important. All tools that are needed are in emergency kit in your vehicle. So you'll have like a jack in your car and you'll have a tire iron to be able to loosen the lug nuts. And those lug nuts usually are on there pretty tight, like at about 100 foot-pounds of torque, which is really strong. So what I tell people is if you put your iron on and you put it vertically and you step on it, you kind of do like a little hop, that'll help loosen it usually. But I do warn, make sure to go do lefty loosey, righty tighty. That's very important because if you do mess up one of your studs on your tires, that can be very expensive to replace as well. Jacking points, so you can't just put the jack under any part of your car. There's usually specific jacking points, and those are usually given in your owner's manual, but you can usually tell because there'll be a little like, not a little hump, but it'll be like a little indented part underneath your frame where sometimes they'll even have a little jack painted on there. But where there's an indented part on your frame, that's where you can jack your car from. The jacking points are in the owner's manuals, and if you don't see anything, you can always jack it from the frame, right? So if you see that your car, like over here in the left-hand picture, you can see those big, thick bars down underneath that connect to the tires. Those are great places for jacking your vehicle up in a safe manner so you don't damage any of your body work. Remember the essentials, lefty, loosey, righty, tighty. But another important tip is before you even go ahead and try and loosen your lug nuts that I have is to go ahead and break the lug nuts while the car is still on the floor. So before even having started jacking up your car, make sure to try and loosen the lug nuts while the tire is still touching the floor. And that'll just kind of be safer for you and make sure that your car doesn't roll off on you or roll off of the jack. And then don't fully take off the lug nuts until the car is off the floor. You take your tire off. You tighten your tires while the car is still in the air. And that should just be finger tight or as tight as you can get it with the tire iron. And then when you do tighten them, make sure to tighten them in a starter pattern to ensure that the rim sits flush with your wheel hub. And then you drop your car down from your jack slowly, and then you retighten your lug nuts as hard as you can in a starter pattern once the tire touches the floor, but with your jack still on. And then usually the emergency jacks are really flimsy when they come with the car, so make sure to be pretty safe if you do go ahead and do that. And if you have of the ability to do so, make sure to block off tires so that your car doesn't roll on you. Maybe find a rock, slap it behind one of your tires so that your car doesn't roll, and that'll usually help out as well. Here's that star pattern that I was talking about on that left-hand image. You can see usually most cars have 5 lug nuts, so you'll do like lug nut number 1, and then you'll go across from it to another lug nut number 2, across from that one, and then just keep doing that pattern. Here's a little bit of the tight righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, what that looks like. So that usually indicates like the direction that you're actually spinning your tire and iron. And then you can also, like what I do as well, is pretend that I'm looking at an old school analog clock. And if you're going with time, that's tightening. And if you're going against the clock, that's loosening. That's also another way that I learned righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. All right, so wipers. I see this all the time with all my friends' cars, and it's one of the things that really, really bothers me, I guess, just because it's a simple fix, and then they're struggling to see because they can't even see the road because their wipers don't work. And I was like, dude, spend 20 bucks, go to Walmart, you could get some good wipers and not put yourself at risk. So wiper blades, usually you have to make sure and check that there's no split ends and that they're not dried up. And here's an image of what a dried up wiper blade will look like. And then if your wiper blade is like it is on the top right image, you should probably replace that, because if the rubber falls off, the frames for the wipers are actually metal, and if the whole rubber piece falls off, you'll actually end up scratching your windshield with nice little arches. That's happened to my dad before. And you'll just damage your windshield. A nice clean wiper blade, like the bottom right, that's a good example of what your wiper blade should look like, in terms of the rubber and it being nice and smooth. So here's another simple check that you can do, your struts. And your struts are pretty much what help your car drive smoothly. And that's what you pretty much, that's what's in action to give you a smooth ride at all times. And a good way to check this is you go for each tire pretty much, and you push down on your car. And if your car is like really bouncy, that's not a good thing. That means that your struts are going out. So the resiliency should be strong. If you push on the corner of your car and it like bounces once or twice, but it's really hard to do so, and your car levels out pretty quickly, then that means your struts are good. But if you push down on your car and it's like really bouncy and it takes a while to stop, then that means that your struts are bad. You could just achieve this by pushing down on all 4 corners of your car. Air filters, a lot of people don't know these exist in cars, but they do. So usually cars have cabin air filters and engine air filters. Cabin air filters, which filter the air that's actually going inside for your AC. You should replace those once a year. And then engine air filters, usually you should replace them every other oil change, or every oil change if you can. I usually do every oil change because I run synthetic oil in my car and it takes forever to do oil changes. So I usually do it every oil change. But here on the left-hand side, that's a dirty engine air filter. And as you can see over on the right-hand side, when they're clean, sometimes even a clean air filters really help like with the cleanliness of your car on the inside. A lot of people get really upset that there's a lot of dust and they don't know where it's coming from. It's usually a good idea to check your engine air filter. Even if your car smells bad and you turn on the AC and that smells bad, it's probably your air filter as well.
Yvonne, I have a couple questions about this.
Yeah.
So one, usually where in cars is a air filter located?
Uh-huh.
And two, how do you clean it? Just like with what?
Yeah. So air filters you usually don't clean. You usually just throw them away and get a new one. But they're not that expensive in terms of other things that you need to replace in your cars. I think an engine air filter is like $20 and a cabin air filter is like $40. Usually they're not that expensive. You can even get cabin air filters for as cheap as $20, but they're out of paper ply. So it's just kind of like a paper towel in a sense, but like a fancier one. So you usually can't clean them. In terms of engine air filters, I actually have some images later on where I'll kind of describe engine components. or I can show you where that is. And then cabin air filters are usually behind your glove box inside. And usually the way that that looks like is you'll pop your glove box, push on the sides, and it'll usually just like pop out. And there'll be like a little square, and you can usually see your cabin air filter pretty quickly. Any other questions before I keep going? Okay, so we also have some common checks that you can do with your battery. And I also briefly describe how to jumpstart it. Make sure you have a tight bracket. Your battery is usually pretty heavy, but if it doesn't brace down, if you hit a bump or something, it can disconnect, and then you could lose power while you're driving, which isn't good because usually our loss of power usually means loss of brakes, especially with newer vehicles, because they use hydraulic pressure and brake cylinders and stuff like that. Making sure that your terminals are clean. So if you open your hood and then there's like a bunch of like soot or a bunch of like white clay-like stuff on top of your battery, that's usually battery acid that's leaked. And that's easy to clean as well. You can usually clean it with carbonated water or grab a Coke, open it, put it right over your battery, and that'll usually clean it up. For jumping your car, it's usually a pretty simple procedure. You put red on your dead battery. So this is the order that you actually connect it. So you'll have your jumper cables. They have a black and a red hook, and it's double-sided for your car, and then for the donor car, for the donor battery. And then it's red on your dead battery, and then on your donor battery, you put your red, and then you put your black on your donor battery, and black on bare metal. And that just really reduces the chance of arcing, which arcing is just like sudden spurts of electricity that can fry your computer. So, but usually that doesn't happen. It's pretty rare. So now I kind of want to get into like how you can actually open your hood. I know I've been talking about kind of basic checks that you can do around your car, but now we're going to get into like opening your hood and doing checks around there. So usually you'll have that little picture on the left-hand side there with a car, and it has the hood open. You just pull on that, and that'll actually pop your hood. And then when you can't just lift your hood right away, there's another safety lever associated with that. And usually you'll lift your hood a little bit and it'll stop, and you put your fingers in. And here on the right-hand side picture, you'll see the car emblem at the front, and you actually put your fingers in and you slide left. And there's usually another little latch that you'll have to pop in there. That's pretty easy as well in order to get into your vehicle. So here's a picture of an engine. It's not my engine. I wish it was, but it's not. And there's a bunch of different components at first. So let me actually turn on my annotate tool again so I could kind of point. But in terms of what Colette was asking, where the engine air filter is, that would be up here in this top right corner. And then on top of it here is your coolant reservoir in this specific engine. It has a clear coolant reservoir. And then back here at the very bottom, that's your brake master cylinder back here. And that's for like brake fluid. So for braking, it's actually, I actually describe it a little bit later, but it's a hydraulic fluid that you use, and it's hydraulic pressure that is used to brake. You have your main engine, your serpentine belt right here, air intake right here, and then you have your manifolds up here on the sides in this engine, and then your fuse box, windshield washer fluid right here, and then you also, that's your oil dipstick. So that's how you can actually check your oil level if you need to check it. And then in this car, you would put the oil in from the top. But yeah, your power steering is up here as well. Engine coolant, oil, your dipstick, and then your transmission fluid you can also check in this specific car. Because it's a smaller car, you don't really need to check it very often. So when it does come to checking your transmission fluid, there'll actually be a dipstick like this one, but towards the back of the car, towards the back of the engine bay. Brake fluid and then your windshield washer fluid are some common fluids that you can check while under the hood. Here's some more engines, same thing, but just they look a little bit different. But the reason why I did put them in is because I wanted to show you that even though there's different car makes, brands, and models, the engine is going to pretty much look the same, right? Like here on this right hand side, this is a brand new truck, but look, windshield washer fluid, it has the same image. Your battery, same thing. Here are your terminals that I was talking about, and those can have dust. Here's your computer for your car. But look, same location with this specific truck as well. Here's your brake fluid. There's that master cylinder. Coolant reservoir, again, looks the same like the other car. It's clear. Engine air filter looks the same again. And then here over here on this left-hand side engine, same thing, battery. There's your brake cylinder again, and your brake fluid. And then with this one, the coolant does look different. So here's your coolant checker, but here's your reservoir right here. So a little bit different, but pretty much the same thing. Your dipstick is right here to check your oil. Your computer air filter is probably up here. Your fuse case, actually, not your computer, that's your fuse case. Your computer's right here. Windshield washer fluid looks pretty much the same. And then the components are all pretty much the same as well for many engines. Any questions? Okay. If you do have one, even if it's for your specific car, like I could probably answer it too. So oil changes, so into some of the maintenance stuff. So oil changes depends on what type of oil you're using. I know Galette mentioned earlier that he had a question about synthetic versus non-synthetic oils, and that comes in here, into play here. So with regular oils, usually you should replace your oil every 5,000 miles or 3 to 4 months, depending on which comes first. And the reason for that is because oil can absorb, can actually absorb water or humidity from the atmosphere. And if your oil is just sitting there, it's not good for your car, especially if you have water mixed with your oil. So it's about every 5,000 miles or 3 to 4 months, whichever comes first. So newer vehicles, at first, when this slide was first made, it was Toyota vehicles, but newer vehicles actually use synthetic oil. And synthetic oil actually lasts a lot longer. Right now, many vehicles that use synthetic oil usually have oil change intervals of every 10,000 miles or once a year, whichever comes first. So synthetic oil is just better because it operates better under higher temperatures, and it also offers less viscosity. So it'll be less thick when it's colder outside. So if you have like a regular general oil, it'll usually be more viscous when it's colder. And there's like a lot of properties that go into it as well. But yeah, synthetic oils usually last longer. My car specifically, I run full synthetic in it, and I change my oil every 7,000 miles in my car. And that usually gets me through the year. But yeah, and then I see there's something in the chat. Okay. So costs can vary from $30 to $150, depending on your vehicle make, model, and year again, which really sucks, I know, but that I can't really give very accurate numbers, but it really does depend on your car, your oil capacity, and stuff like that. Different cars have different oil capacities, right? Like my car, it's a 4-cylinder engine, and that uses 5 quarts of oil. But if I had like a bigger SUV, like a Toyota Highlander with a V6 in it, like a 6-cylinder engine, that takes 7.5 quarts of oil. So it just depends.
I heard in the past that you shouldn't change your oil. Like not like change your oil, but I mean like change the brand of oil that you're using. I don't know if that's true. Can you verify that?
I don't think that's true at all. I think that's just something that's very biased that a lot of people say. Like oil, like everything else in this nation, is very capitalistic, and everyone's loyal to their brands, right? Like everyone you either have an iPhone or you have a Google phone or a Samsung, you know? So it's just very opinionated, I guess. A lot of oils nowadays especially need to meet certain certifications in order to be even on the market. So that's just something to consider. But no, it shouldn't matter. What does matter is like your oil weight, like 5W30, 10W30, 10 weight 30, and stuff like that. That is what matters. So as long as you're using the proper weight of oil, I think you should be fine. Oil filters, you replace those with every oil change. And then engine air filters, again, every other oil change, or if you can, every oil change. And then the filter, to kind of give it a little boost sometimes, you can actually check it for dust and accumulation of grime. And if you just see that there's just like a bunch of dust, you can bang it against something and you can actually use it sometimes again and clean it up just by banging it and banging all the dust out. Don't recommend it, but if you're in a pinch, it's understandable to do that. So, especially if you don't drive your vehicle that much. So here's what fresh engine oil looks like. It has that nice like light brown caramel hue to it. And here's what used motor oil looks like. And this is usually what your oil will look like after those intervals that we talked about. And the reason why you do want to replace your oil, a lot of people ask, why even replace it? It's because it loses its lubrication properties after you've used it for so long, and it's not lubricating your engine as well, which can lead to like bigger issues, like with like your timing and stuff like that later on in the future. And then here's what your engine oil filter looks like. New is on the left, used is on the right, and they'll usually, when you replace them, they'll usually actually be heavier. And it could be because they're saturated with oil, but you can actually like see dirt and stuff within the pleats of the filters themselves sometimes as well, especially if you live out in rural areas where there's a lot of dust. You can also check your brake pads. Wear on your brake pads is usually pretty visual. If you can't see that, you could just pop your tire off and check. Replacement varies depending on your wear. Usually, if you push on your brakes and there's a high squeaking sound, you should get them replaced. That's the wear indicator that they put on there. Brake discs need to be smooth and not grooved. So if you look at a tire from the side, it'll be like, you'll see the like a little box, and that'll be your brake pad itself attached onto your caliper. And then the actual shiny part that you see behind your tire is actually your brake discs. If you replace pads, it's recommended that you replace the disc, but it's not required. And then brake pads should be around 12 millimeters thick when new. And then the minimum that they should be thickness-wise is about 3 millimeters. So here's what your brake pads look like. Old on the left, new on the right. So you can see this person specifically ran out of brake pad material and actually started going into the backing plate, which is not good for your rotors. And then on the right hand side, you can see the rotors, and that's usually what a lot of people see and refer to as their brakes. And you can see the 5 lug nuts, the 5 holes for the lug nuts. That's where it attaches to your hub assembly. So that's kind of what that looks like. Some more quick notes. Some maintenance tasks do require special tools and a lot of time to do. So some of those are like spark plugs. Those take a while to do as well, but you also need some special tools to do those. If you want to replace your transmission fluid, that's usually really hard for like a car, but usually pretty easy for bigger vehicles like trucks and stuff like that. Tires, usually you can't do that at home. You have to take it into a shop. Timing belts or serpentine belts, you usually need to take them into shops for. You can do them, but it's usually stuff that's a little bit more difficult. And if you do mess up, it's going to be like a bad mess up. Like it's going to cost a lot of money to get whatever you damaged fixed. These can be done if you're comfortable around your tools and if you're okay with working on your own car and taking that risk of possibly messing up. So just for like interior vehicle care, clean your interior often to avoid stains and vehicle smelling. Use light, non-harmful chemicals on your interior only. Leather, it's usually when you're cleaning leather, make sure to use leather-approved chemicals. So what a lot of people like to say is with leather, it's like your skin. Except it's not your skin. So you have to like open the pores up in the leather, make sure you clean it, and then you have to seal the pores after you clean the leather to avoid it from cracking on later down the road. Especially here in Colorado, washing your vehicle regularly helps protect the body and helps it look good in the long run, especially with all the magnesium sulfate and salt that gets dropped on the roads to melt all of that ice. That's really bad for your car. Don't leave that on for more than a year or it will start to eat. It won't eat at it immediately, but once, like let's say it rains and you have like salt or magnesium sulfate on the frame of your car, that's when the rust will start to accumulate, is when it hits with water, not just when it's the salt by itself. Brake dust can be very acidic as well, so make sure to clean your wheels often as well to help avoid rim corrosion and help avoid rims from snapping. Some helpful resources. Usually, if you need to like find where to replace something for your car, you can usually go to YouTube. Some channels that are very good are Chris Fix, 1A Auto, and no one does this. I don't know why, but your owner's manual. Your owner's manual is your best friend. Like, it will straight up give you drawings and pictures of how to do stuff. Like, it will break it down to a T, and everything will look exactly how it is in your car. AutoZone, you can go there as well. You can rent tools if you need specific tools from them, and it's free to rent their tools. Actually, you don't even need to be a member. You can just go in, rent the tool, and then take it back. O'Reilly Auto Parts, they're also pretty good. They have computers that you can scan your car. Do you have a check engine light? Usually better to go to them first rather than to a mechanic, because sometimes it could just be a sensor that's triggering that check engine light, and it could be really easy to fix, and you can do it in like under 10 minutes compared to taking it out to a shop. So with owner's manual, so I'd used my own car to do this, but if you don't have one, it's usually pretty easy to get one. So with me, I have a 2012 Buick Verano. I literally Googled 2000 Buick Verano owner's manual, and I had some typos, as you can see. Even with the typos, it was the first thing, the first link that popped up was actually my owner's manual. And it has a bunch of information, like your instrument panel, your keys, doors, windows, seat restraints, stuff like that. But everything you need to know about your car is going to be in your owner's manual. If you don't know how to use the remote start, it's going to be in here. If you don't know what type of gas, it's going to be in here. Everything you need to know. You don't know what a specific button means, it'll be in there. Even the lights on your dashboard will be explained by your owner's manual, and it'll tell you what to do if it pops up. So here, this is like what the inside of my car looks like. You can see it gives a pretty brief description, and it literally points out every single little thing. And then over on the right, like, it'll explain little things, how to release your trunk, your windows, how to adjust your seat, and it'll show you the levers that are in your car and that are specific to your car. So that's something else that's really good about your owner's manual. So here's what my instrument cluster looks like. And then there it has all the lights, like your ABS brake system, low tire pressure, low oil, check engine, cruise control, gas, everything. So it even has vehicle care on there as well. That's a whole section in the book. And it talks about tires, winter tires, low profile tires. It talks about tire pressure. I have a TPS system, so a tire pressure monitoring system. It even tells you what brands are genuine to your car. So in like the case of my car, I have a General Motors car, which is GM is usually like Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Chevy. Oh, actually, no. It's just like, it's usually like Chevy and GMC are GM cars now. That used to be back then. But Chevy, GMC, and Buick, they're all General Motors. And they all run these same parts. So AC Delco, genuine GM parts, and genuine GM accessories. So opening the hood, here's, in my specific car, here's the lever that's inside, and it tells you, pull up on the hood release handle. It is located inside the vehicle to the left of the steering column, boom. And then it literally has step by step. So here's step 2. Go to the front of the vehicle with your hand palm side down, slide the secondary hood release handle towards the driver's side of the vehicle. So like I said, from left to right, and then there's that lever that I was talking about underneath your hood. So here's my specific engine. This is what my engine looks like exactly like it. So here's my engine air filter to the left. Here's my main engine, intake manifold up here at the front, brake cylinder, coolant. Here's my battery up here, and then my computers. And then my sparks and all that are up here underneath this cover. That's where I put my engine oil in. So yeah, your car manual will literally explain everything. And then there's my dipstick right there, C. So here it's telling me how to replace the light bulb in my car. So for this specific case, it was the license plate light. and it's giving me step-by-step instructions, and it breaks down how to do it. And then if you need the bulb number, boom, there they are. If my high beam headlamp, so my pretty much my regular headlight, but my high beam, the bulb number is H911 or H9LL. And you go to the auto parts store and they give it to you. And most of the time you don't even need to know this. You just go in there, tell them the year, make of your car, and they'll just type it in their computer, and they'll even get it for you as well. Sometimes they'll even put it in for you at the store too, and AutoZone and stuff like that. So here's my fuse box. And usually what I like to tell people is if something electrical isn't working in your car, check your fuses. Sometimes if your window isn't rolling down, it could literally be a fuse. So here's what my fuse box looks like on the inside of my engine. And again, it literally gives you how many amps it is and what it's for. Right, so here's some more fuses. So like, let's say my headlight isn't working. One, it can be the bulb, or maybe it's the fuse. Let me go check the fuse. So I would go up and look at spot number 22, which it showed me. This is what that's for. It shows me what spot. And you literally check the fuse. And if the fuse is burned out, if it looks burnt, then you just replace the fuse, $2-3, boom. You just fixed your headlight. Maybe your window isn't working. Let's check. Front power window. That's fuse number 19. It's a 30 amp fuse. My wipers aren't working. That's fuse number 43. Stuff like that. And you can usually check everything pretty well. All right, so that was all that I had. I know I kind of threw a lot of information out at people. Are there any questions? No?
Yes.
That's fair.
I have a question, but I want to see like anybody else first. Okay, I'll ask. Okay, so let's see here. First was, I think you shared this, but on my car right now, I have this indicator, this little light that says TPMS. I think that's tire pressure monitoring system. That's been on for like a year. But
yeah,
I don't think it's my tire though.
No, so that can usually mean that it's the actual sensors inside of your tires that aren't reading right, or that maybe when you went to get your tires replaced, and this has happened before to me too, is that they'll actually like mess up your sensors when putting on new tires. And when that happened to me, I just went back to the place where I got my tires replaced, and I told them that they messed it up. I was like, it was working before I brought it in, and now it's not working. You guys obviously messed it up. And they usually replace that. But usually that's not something to worry about, because that just tells you your tire pressure. Your car is still operable and it's pretty safe to run.
Okay.
At that point.
All right. And then my other question was for everybody here. Do you all either have a car or are you looking to get one? What is that?
I have one. Yeah.
Chris, you have one? Yeah.
I have one too.
You have one too. What about the rest?
Two.
You have two, Gio? All right.
Yeah.
Can you give me one?
Yeah, it's combined.
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of cars do you all have? If you don't mind me asking.
BMWs.
Okay.
2021 Toyota Tacoma.
Oh, nice.
I have it to you as well.
I was like, yeah, so that means that it's hard to work on.
Yeah.
I was like,
For the modern parts of your presentation, I'm like, oh no.
yeah. I was like, those new cards are really hard to work on.
Krishna, did you say you had one too?
I have a Toyota as well.
Oh, the Toyota. Okay. I was asking because, like, I know that, like, this is, like, I feel like car maintenance, you know, like, everyone, regardless of where we're at right now, everyone, I guarantee every single one of you is gonna have a car, right? You probably already own one, but you're gonna get a different car. And it's really important to be knowledgeable on it. especially when like, we take our car to auto parts or to get a oil change at Jiffy Lube or something. Like, there's a lot of people that can like tell us wrong, or that can like, misinform us and charge us way more just because they see us as not knowledgeable, right? And so, I hope that you all like really, really are conscious of that. And also, like, Ivan hasn't shared this, but I know he's really, really willing to, just connect with you all. If you do have questions, he can make himself available, and just anything about any car issues or problems or anything like that.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that my email was at the beginning. I don't know if y'all saw that, but if you do ever have questions, hit me up via email. I check that like nothing else, because I'm about to graduate, so I'm checking that like crazy, because that's where a lot of my professors, especially when you get to like, I had to take a bunch of like graduate level courses as a senior, and a lot of my professors are like really old and they don't know how to use Canvas, so they literally shoot everything through email. But yeah, I'm checking my email all the time. If y'all ever need anything, please feel free to contact me. I would say catch me in the office, but that's not a thing right now. But yeah, definitely willing to help.
Any other questions? No? Good. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ivan. That was awesome. That was really, really cool. I've been here for presentations before, but I always learn something new. That's awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it. As I shared at the beginning, there's a link there in the chat right there. Make sure to complete that. Please be honest. And just kind of like share your feedback, what you thought about the presentation, what you learned. And this is how you're going to get your credit. All right, if you're in Thrive, we'll give you credit for this for attending, and of course for submitting it. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, if you are all done, feel free to log off. Thank you all very much. Hope you all have a good day.
There you go. Do you mind sending the link again?
Absolutely. Yeah, I did send it in the email, or I'm sorry, not in the email, in the chat, but I'm going to go ahead and send it right now again.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't pop up on mine.
Oh, shoot.
There it goes.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
That should do it.
how'd it go?
All right. I thought that went really well. I know that, like, an in-person car, we've done that in the past. That's really cool too.
That's way better.
Yeah. But no, the images were really great. I think that, like with what you were able to provide information about, like the owner's manual, like where to find stuff, was really, really good. I didn't have any negative comments or feedback or anything like that. I thought it was good.
Okay.
Thank you so
That's
much.
good.
Thank you, Ivan. I will,
no problem.
once I get all the evaluations, I'll make sure to send you the feedback, what people said about that, just so you have that feedback on that. Okay?
Okay, that's
Cool.
fine.
All right. Well, do you need me to send,
Go
do you
on.
need me to tell like Mitch or anything about like this, or?
I do think it is required for us, but I told him it was going to be today.
Okay.
So
He's already aware of it.
I think he trusts me enough.
Yeah.
I think he trusts me.
All right. Cool. Sounds good. That should do it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks. You too.
All
We'll
right.
see
See
you.
ya. Yep. Bye.